Do you have any burning questions about using the Equiband, about getting results with the Equiband, or best strategies and tips and tricks for using the Equiband? Well, basically, I started the channel to track my Equiband journey and in the process help anybody else that was also facing the same struggles. And then along the way, you guys started posting a lot of great questions on a number of videos. And so I figured that I would make this series where I answer all of these questions in a video, because if one person asked, chances are more than one person has the question. So I hope that this helps, and I'll probably make like a compilation with all the questions in one, but then also break them out into individual videos as well. So, and I'm not trying to dox anybody who's asking me these questions, so I would just like to say up front, thank you for asking these questions, and if you want recognition, I'm more than happy to tag you in it or things like that, of that nature. But anyway, I went back and forth on it because on one hand, I don't want to discredit people for the questions, but then on the other hand, I wasn't trying to dox anybody who didn't want to, be public on the internet. So our third question is, what kind of supplements do you use for the tendon injury? So I guess my first caveat here is that I'm going to tell you about a few things, a few that are supplements and a few that aren't supplements, because part of me kind of questions how we're using the word supplement here. So the first thing that I use is something called Cosequin. Now, Cosequin is actually for joint health, but when it comes to a tendon injury, that is an injury to all the bones, the tendons, the ligaments. It's everything around that tendon that actually suffers through the tendon injury. Like, for instance, when you've been injured in your life, the first thing that happens is something around it starts to hurt as well, because you're compensating, right? So the first supplement that I use in terms of during his tendon injury, and I have continued to use it since then, is Cosequin, and I can link that down below. I don't think that injuries are the worst thing that can happen. I think that the hardest part about injury and rehab is once you start to feel better, and this is horses don't talk to us, right? So this is me talking about being a human and being an ex-gymnast and having to have rehabbed like a million injuries. The danger is when you start to feel better, that's usually when you either re-injure it or you injure something else because you're like, oh, I feel better. And the problem with horses is, so like a human, you can be like, oh, I feel better, but I'm consciously going to make the decision not to push it. Horses do not think like that. So they're just going to go, oh, I feel better, run across the field and be like, oh, now I feel bad again. And then you have to start over. So the second supplement that I used is actually a muscle builder by Finish Line, and I can link that. I called it applesauce, but what it's for is for building muscle. Now, you don't have to use Finish Line. Finish Line is a product that my barn uses because it is their products are FEI legal. So when horses compete internationally, they are held to a very strict drug regimen, and Finish Line products, one of their selling points is that they are FEI legal. So, I mean, obviously, while you're rehabbing a horse, it doesn't matter because they're not signing up for FEI. But the whole point of that was you can use whatever brand you want. I'm just telling you why I used Finish Line. And it's got this applesauce texture to it, so that's why I call it applesauce. But I used a muscle builder because while my horse was coming back from his rehab, I really wanted to help him build his muscles everywhere else. Because think about it this way, when your horse injures themselves, the first thing that happens is they sit. And they sit for, anywhere from 4 months and there's some that have to sit for 9 months. Luckily with Fuego's most recent injury, he sat for only, I'm going to say 4 months, where all he could do was hand walk. And the problem is that when they sit, not only do they, obviously they don't gain any muscle by just standing there, But the real issue is they lose all of their muscles that they had from before. It's not like they get to keep their fitness level. And actually, when my horse was a going intermediate horse and got injured, it was kind of a big problem because he was like, guys, you got me all hyped up. He's like, dude, you shouldn't have put my fitness this high if you were going to make me sit for a month or 4 months. So the reality is that I used the muscle builder because not only was he going to have to rehab his leg, but he was also going to have to compensate and rebuild all of those muscles that just dissipated as he sat there during his rehab. So the one caveat I will also add is that if you have a really hot horse, like so if you have a thoroughbred or things like Fuego's name is Fuego, so he's a really hot horse by nature, and the reason that I used the muscle builder is that it didn't, I tested it, right, but it didn't make him hot. So that was why I was okay with continuing to use it, because if it gives them too much energy, then it's counterproductive, because you really want your horse during rehab to stay relatively calm. And so one thing I will say is if you put them on any sort of muscle builder supplement and it makes them a little crazy, then it's maybe not worth, risking them re-injuring themselves. But the muscle builder that I am sharing with you, the Finish Line one, didn't make my horse hot. So, it's going to be on a horse-to-horse basis, right? Like, apparently, 1% of the population is allergic to Advil. I just found that out. I find that crazy. But that means that 1% of the population takes Advil and has an allergic reaction. Everybody, vast majority take Advil and their headache's gone. But there is a so I don't know if your horse is in that 1% or not. So I don't want to pretend to know before, I've ever seen your horse or anything. But the reality is, you can always test things. It's not going to hurt them to test something. And like I said, I used it and it didn't make my horse hot. And my horse is hot by nature. So it didn't make him any worse than he already is. and rehab makes them hot anyway. So when I say it doesn't make them hot, I mean that it doesn't make them worse than they already are, because I always correlate rehab to being trapped in your bathroom, and I'm like, if you trap me in my bathroom for 4 months, I would be crazy when I came out of there. So it's something we can all logically understand, that what they're going through is actually quite difficult for them, especially because horses are meant to run around. Obviously while they're injured doesn't help, so but you can't explain it to them, can you? So those were the two supplements, in the truest sense of the word supplement, that I used during his rehab to help him with his tendon injury. The first one is Cosequin, joint supplement to help the body maintain its health along the way. And the second was Muscle Builder, which I was using during his rehab. However, I also want to add one more in here, and it is Corona Liniment. I wouldn't necessarily call it a supplement. It's a liniment, meaning it's a topical salve that you put on their legs. And during really hard work days, I would use Corona Liniment, and I wouldn't use it every day. Anything that I talk about, if you use something every single day, every time you use it, it basically loses value, if that makes sense. So if you use Liniment every single day, or if you ice every single day, then it's not going to have the same effect over time. And so, and sometimes when your horse just got injured, then you ice every day for a week, right? But what I'm talking about is you can't just ice every day for 365 days a year and pretend on day 366 that it's going to be have the same effect. It's too much of a good thing, So when it comes to Corona Liniment, I was using it strategically, meaning that I would use it after he started jumping, or when he would have a really hard work day, or when I would when we would add more work to the workload. And now that he's not rehabbing anymore, I use the same strategy, right? I use the same strategy. So he gets Liniment after he jumps, and he gets Liniment after he conditions. So after his really hard work days, he gets help recovering. So that's that. I know that one's not really a supplement, and I actually have two different liniments that I use. One is a Finish Line and one is by Corona. So I'll actually link both of those somewhere. So I'll actually link both of those, and dealer's choice. Like, you guys can pick whatever you feel most comfortable with your horse. I mean, honestly, I would say that most of the advice in this particular video, in this particular question, is about strategy. So I would say that using the muscle builder, there's lots of different brands of muscle builder, but the idea that you give them a muscle builder while they're rehabbing so that they can build their other muscles in accordance with the rehab that they're doing, it's a strategy. And so use whatever muscle builder you want, but the idea is to help them build muscles in the other areas of their body that just kind of went sour sitting in the stall. But it's just advice. Everybody's got tons of advice. So take the stuff you like, leave the stuff you don't like, and I wish you luck. So I hope you enjoyed this video on this question that I got about the Equiband. Please keep the questions coming, because chances are if you have the question, somebody else has the question, and I can't read your mind. So if you comment on the video your question, there's a very real chance that your question is going to end up in a video and you'll get your answer, not just in written form, because I have responded to all these questions as well. This channel is trying to continue to help educate people on how to build the best Equiband program for their horse and get the results, the amazing results that I've seen. I used the Equiband back in 2021 and it is now 2024. In addition to the fact that it was a game changer on my horse's rehab, the benefits of him being able to use his body better, transcended his rehab. And I'll link my reaction video. I did a side-by-side comparison of before and after the Equiband, because one of the things that he improved upon is his straightness. That the results that I've seen with the Equiband were not just beneficial to his rehab, they were beneficial to how he uses his body to this day. And if you do this right, if you build the program right, if you build up that strength right, it doesn't mean you have to use it forever. It means you have to use it for an amount of time that enables them to use their body better, and then you can use it as more of like a maintenance tool. You don't have to use it all day, every day. It's like a workout program. It's a workout regime. Not everybody struggles with the exact same thing. If you give your horse more strength to do the endurance test, whatever your endurance test is, whether it's jumping, dressage, eventing, Western, racing, it doesn't matter. If you give your horse more strength in their ability to do the work, then the work can get better. And so I hope that these questions have helped, because I guarantee if one person has the question, more than one person has the question. So keep the questions coming and I will keep answering them. See you on the next one.